Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, February 12th. So, right smack in the middle of the week, and today's theme of the day, and this should be the 12th, I apologize. The theme of the day is basically grind higher today, which is what we're seeing in basically I don't want to say everything, but mostly everything. Where did we finish on the day? S&P finished up 65 basis points. The Qs finished up just under 1% for the day, so continuing to see outperformance there. IWM also participated a little bit today, up 68 basis points. TLT finished down. Bonds were weak. And the VIX dropped pretty heavily here. The VIX dropped down below 14 today. So yeah, we're under 14 for the VIX. So that has been kind of a continuous, move down in the VIX. Was around 15 a couple days ago and has been drifting lower again. So one of the things that jumps out off the page to me, if we look at the price, and we'll go over a couple things to watch here technically, but now we did do that ramp into the close a little bit, so it was nice to see because for the majority of the day we just kind of sat there for the S&P. Just basically, here's where we opened. I was making a joke in the trading room earlier that we have gone up since the open zero point 0.0. But we did move. We did accelerate from 2 o'clock on a little bit, which is nice. That's a nice thing to see kind of buyers step in. But, the point of that is basically, I repeat myself a lot in these videos, but I hope it helps, and I hope it helps you. Some of the things that I point out, such as the overnight moves being greater than the intraday moves, I hope that helps you with your trading. I know, again, a lot of people, they want to come in and they want to day trade, and I get that, right? They want to be active during the daytime, but it is what it is. It is what it is, guys. The majority of the moves, and especially like in this market that we have right now, where we're grinding higher, is that the overnight moves are bigger than the intraday moves. Not every single day. Usually we get maybe 1 day a week. Now I would classify this as pretty decent too. What was the percentage change again from eight? We moved 18 basis points. Right, so you got something there. Now, of course, these are the averages, and this is not representative of every single stock, but the majority of stocks they're choppy during the day. The Qs are where we've had that move, right? The Qs have had a lot more momentum to them. Even though I have been talking about value versus growth, and I even have put on a couple valuous trades, but not seeing a major move in that ratio just yet. But doesn't mean that happens right away. So that's something that I'll continue to monitor, but not really seen that major value outperformance that I thought we would maybe get 1 or 2 days. But we'll continue to watch that. But yeah, here's your Nasdaq. Here's where we started the day. We rallied up into the top of value for the day, hung around there, and then we got that acceleration at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean that's the main story. Now, do we get that again tonight? Again, that's going to depend a little bit on international markets, right? If China's strong, Europe's strong again in the morning, then maybe we see that. But it's going to be dependent on those guys. But that was also the case yesterday too. Remember, yesterday we started strong, gave back some gains midday, and then finished right around the same. So if you're really good scalping, there's some opportunities. I'll tell you a little bit about what we traded today, but I think that's the main story. And again, I continue to kind of pound the table with that. It's just if you're looking every day just to day trade without holding any risk overnight, you're missing out on the majority of the gains. It just is what it is. That is a time-tested principle that's been going on. But and again, I repeat myself over and over to try to help traders, change their philosophy around a little bit. But buying the close and selling the open far much better than the other way around. So that being said, I also wanted to look at the bonds really quick. The bonds have been pretty good to buy on dips. This is where I'm kind of looking at this. If we look at the 1 hour chart, I traded bonds last week and had a really nice trade when the market was a little bit soft one day. I managed to make almost a double on a TLT trade. So what am I looking at for now? And this is when we were doing this last week, right? Or is this here? No, this is on Monday of this week. So we're moving through the value area. We got to resistance. I think 142.37 would be a place for me to kind of look at this because these bonds, buying the weakness in bonds, has also been a pretty good trade. And this is how this is shaping up, right? We had this big rip here, retest back to the top of value, and we did not make a new higher high here. We've been moving down, but if we kind of come in here and retest, maybe we're putting in some type of a bull flag for TLT. Don't know yet. We know where our support is. We're lying just above there, and that's why I like to look at these 1 hour levels, because 1 hour, I think we could go down a little bit further. Doesn't mean we have to, but I think that would be a nice trade entry, that 142.37 ish. So something to keep an eye on. Again, I like to have something in my portfolio that's a little bit different than the rest of the portfolio. Sectors, this solar has been absolutely on fire. I think this solar ETF, again, some people, they don't like to trade the ETFs, but you do get diversification to the whole group. And something like this, it's different than trading like XLF or something like this. But the solar ETF, this thing's been up, I think, 17% this month. So if you look at 10 and if we go to HP, let me just clarify because I do want to know what it is up, because I am long this. 131 2020, it's up 19% since the beginning of the month. So it's pretty tremendous, the solar names. We did see call buying about a week ago. It was ENPH. I've had a small trade on in that thing, and it has just kept going. I also think this, now both of these names of the top the top percentages in these. Notice that First Solar is no longer the top weight. It is now SEDG, and this thing is. I put out a chart last night of both ENPH and SEDG, but this one I think has a chance to go because ENPH has been an absolute monster. We saw some RUN. Again, don't let the people on Twitter try to fool you. There was some calls that went up in this, but they went up very close to the high of the day, right around up 4%. That's tough. I personally can't chase, a name where it's up 4% on the day. Now, they did buy calls last week as well in RUN, so those worked from last week. But when somebody's just buying a name just because it's up 4%, which I think a lot of the call activity is, again, I always try to give you that view. Some of it is good, some of it is kind of crap. And that's why hedge funds don't beat the S&P. For the 70% of hedge funds do not beat the S&P because some of them are buying stocks that are up 4% on the day. But that's what it is. So just, don't let people. I think what some guys on Twitter try to do to fool people is they talk about that there was calls in the name, and they're like, oh, geez, look at how much the stock's up. Well, sometimes when the calls go up on the absolute high of the day, I don't know. They seem to try to hide that from people because I think some of these guys are really dependent on call buying. But it is what it is. So that's that. Both those names, ENPH and SEDJ, have earnings coming up. But yes, I remain long the solar ETF. I've been long this for a couple months, and I'm just kind of letting this thing. I should be looking to take a target at this point. I've been letting it run a bit. Look at the volume today. So maybe a seller kind of came in here at the end of the day. I would assume that somebody's got to be taking some profits. I should have taken a target today. Where was this volume? It looks like maybe there was a seller here of 530,000 shares in the beginning of the day. So interesting. And I would be mindful too of those two names reporting earnings. Maybe that might change things a little bit. Maybe some profit taking happens on those earnings calls if the calls aren't great. But man, what a move! I tell you, one of the things that's helped me a little bit. I have our one tactical portfolio, which you can find this. It's all public information. I don't think people really believe that I'm doing this, but it is what it is. You can bring up our portfolio of what I'm trading, and you could take a look at. If you have an account open with Motif, you could see how I'm doing. I rebalance it once a week, and right now it's neck and neck with the S&P. I think it's beating the S&P just a little bit. And for the day, it was up. It outperformed the S&P, and I'm still long. I still have. Here's the changes. What I did yesterday. I don't mind showing this, but I still have 15% cash in this. I went to 35% cash, which is the SHY ETF. Went to 3-year Treasury bonds about 3 weeks ago, and I've been peeling out of that cash position and kind of going into some names, that I see fit. But unfortunately, I took Shop out. I was up 55% since I put Shopify on. I just didn't want the earnings. Uh, it's funny how this has been working for me. When I take names out for earnings, you have a Shopify, which was up. I know Shopify did give back some of the gains for the day, but was still up 7.8%. It's kind of going to be an interesting candle. Sometimes these big candles after a big move. But would I have liked to be holding into the earnings, like seeing the results? Sure, but I just didn't want to jeopardize a position where I was up 55% from getting into that. But big mover there. But so I did delete that one yesterday. I also deleted IWC, and I reduced AMD, reduced a little bit of my cash position, and then I made some ads there as well yesterday. But again, you could follow this completely. I don't know very many other people who are completely transparent with their holdings, and this is a medium to long term. It's not really a medium term portfolio. It's just all stock, and I'm basically monitoring it different than like a short term account, right? So it's kind of something. It's a trend following portfolio with active stops and targets to take out. All right, so that's that. But again, fully on the internet for you. You could look at it at any time you want to. What else did well today? Retail did very well today. XRT was and rallied from the open, up 1%. Biotech did quite fine today, up 80 basis points. Is this now? This is one of those sectors that wow, look at that! It is now above. It is now trying to make a higher high here. I was worried that this was going to stall at the top of value, but XBI is now back up here, and a lot of decent setups within here are materializing a little bit more and more. Look at Regeneron. Regeneron is now above value on the daily. Take a look at the weekly chart to give you a little bit of perspective. I know some people, when they see a stock up, especially if the stock was up 2.4% today, you're like, oh, geez, I missed it. It's just barely above value. 375 is your support. So it's basically just making the move. Now it's got to hold above here, and you can't really draw a trend line perfect in here, but I think, a little more, and this pushes to be a nice long signal. Because Regeneron, let's face it, for the last couple of years, it's made a real nice charge since the lows, but it's pretty sideways. So it's now above value. It did this back here in the beginning of last year too, and kind of fell apart, and that's where we hit the low. But I think a stock position versus 375, or using call spreads, something like that for Regeneron is not a bad idea. Couple other I'll bring up a couple other stocks that I thought were interesting for the day. Once again, even though XOP was up on the day, up 1.3%, was one of those areas that gave back a lot of gains. Gold miners are in there. The banks basically finished flat. A little bit disappointing with, even though TLT was down today, you would think banks would have rallied. for that value play that I've been talking about. Nope, didn't really take place today. OIH sold off from the open a little bit, still up 2% on the day. But that's that. A couple other stocks that I thought are interesting for the day. Melly. This is always a tricky name on earnings. Half the time, it seems like on earnings, it looks like it's going to sell off, and then it seems to do these reversals. Really nice looking pattern here. I think almost a cup and handle little pattern going on here. And look at how on top of value, this is this year's value area. Again, anytime I'm on the weekly chart, this is the value area for the whole year. So this is major support, and it went into support or went into the value area and bounced right back, and it looks like it's going to be a nice move here. So again, high price stock. It's a $700 stock, so it's a little bit difficult to trade stock in it, but options are a little bit wide too. But that's a really nice looking move. One name that I went long today. You don't hear a lot of people talk about this name. This is Camping World. This is Marcus Lemonis's company. One of my favorite shows to watch on TV is The Profit. Take a look at well, first of all, the weekly chart. Notice how you got a breakout and you got a retest. I see $20 up here as a possible long-term target. If we go back to the daily chart, this has been a good place late since this thing is kind of reversed itself on earnings. This is the big candle here. Every time this thing kind of sits back, it's been a good place to add. This was a sit back to the 20-day moving average. This was a sit back to the 50-day moving average, broke out, and has been coming in, and it seems like it found support on the 50-day moving average. I took a shot at this right around the lows of the day, so I'm already up nicely in this one. So again, this is Marcus Lemonis's company. So at the very least, $17 I think is a nice place to take a target, and then you could try for that bigger one. But this is the reversal, and I didn't even wait for this thing to get into value. I waited. I caught the first couple green bars of this, and my price was on this. If we go to my trades, CWH 1491. I got it. So I'm up nicely in this thing so far. All right. One other chart. This was somebody I on Twitter who I follow posted this. He's a real good follow as well. Joe Kunkel posted this chart of Dollar General. So I want to make sure I don't like people who steal charts or steal work, but this wasn't something I was watching until he pointed it out today, and it's really nicely coiled in here and breaking value. Notice the VPOC takeout and fade and back into the coil, but I think this time it might be ready to go. No volume really confirming this breakout, but I think for now watching price with a stop of 157 on this thing looks pretty good. I went along this one as well today. So again, tough to like every day I think that as well as many people, right? I got a lot of tweets at me saying, private as well as in the chart. I'm sorry, in our trading room, basically like everybody's looking for a sell signal. I get it. I was talking about the advanced decline line showing a negative divergence last week, and which straightened itself out, by the way. But everybody's looking for sell signals right now, and kind of has a feeling of having one foot out the door. Hardest thing to do is to stick with the trend. It is what it is. So for now, not that I want to be adding like a ton of risk up here, but it's the old wash, rinse and repeat a little bit. Make sure that you're taking some trades off, taking some profits in some things. We are at that R1 on the S&P, but starting to get a little bit overbought as well. So this swing is getting pretty mature, but I'm continuing to kind of hold a pretty big cash balance. So if the setup looks really good, and I've been saying this now for the last couple weeks, rather than watch headlines about the coronavirus and every other stupid thing, look for if the setups keep materializing. Usually the market is going to is going to continue on its path. If if you're doing your analysis and your homework and you're not finding anything, then you know that something's not right. But I'm continuing to find new bullish setups. So for now, watching my risk, very important. But hey, if something is really setting up nicely, I'm going to take a shot at it. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.